Hello and welcome to Piccolo Italiano on the Edge. Yes, so what we have here is a little Italian knife. Right, let's lay that down here. So it's an Extrema ratio. Quite a long time since I've had an Extrema ratio on the Edge. This specific one has another one of those catchy names as the Extrema ratio knives tend to have. So this, the BF O with a little line through it, and then a R that's in a different font, CD. So at face value, BF0RCD, because the 0 or O with a line through it is a symbol for an empty set or null set, and that's to help distinguish between a 0 and an O. So there it is, the BF0RCD, to the best of my knowledge. That's what it is. And if you know better, and that's just to get it closer so that you can see what the heck I am on about. There it is on the handle of the knife. So if you know better than I do what that actually means, please comment below and please educate me, because I'm a little cautious now about names of knives, because I've screwed on one of my reviews a name of a knife up completely recently. So I say the name under correction. There we go. Right. So after all that waffle, I'm going to be doing the usual. I'm going to be going through materials, dimensions, and weight, and then we will dive into design and attributes of this tiny little knife. Apparently the smallest folder in Extrema Ratio's catalog. So there it is. We have a blade not unusual for Extrema Ratio, and actually not unusual for quite a few European makes of knives, and that is a blade steel of Bowler N690. We have a handle that they describe as technopolymer, and best I can see, it's a glass fiber reinforced nylon, that handle. Liner, we've got liners on the knife, stainless steel, and I'll speak about that interesting construction a little bit later on. Clip, stainless steel. Screws are all Torx, and they are stainless steel. And then the pivot. Well, there is a washer in there, but an undetermined material. And I'm going to insert a photo about here so that you can see what that washer looks like. And it looks like it could be a little sheet of Kevlar, but I don't know. And once again, if you know better than I do, please do comment below. But there you go. That's the washer that's in this knife. Right, and now let's go through dimensions and weight of this little knife. So we've got a blade length of 55 millimeters, and that's 2.16 inches. A blade thickness of 2.5 millimeters, and that's 0.098 inches. Handle thickness of 11.4 millimeters, and that's 0.44 inches. Closed length of the knife is let's get that closed. Closed length of the knife, and that's quite interesting because we've got this little bit, this front flipper that they've given another name, but including that, the closed length is 97.4 millimeters, and that's 3.83 inches. And total length of the knife, as I fumble to get it open, total length of the knife is 140 millimeters, and that's 5.51 inches. And then, as per usual, I've got stated weights written down here, but I'm going to check that on my scale. Let's get that cranked up, and did give the scale a good clean, so hopefully that's looking a little bit better. Let's have a look at that. So grams, let's see what I get on grams. I get 53 grams. Oh, bang on, perfect with theirs. They've also got 53 grams. So, and I don't know what's happening with my voice. Keep on going. I feel like I've got a little frog crawling in there, but never mind, we'll keep going. So, ounces, that is 1.8. They've got 1.86 ounces. So there it is, close as damn it. Right, let's get this interesting little knife open and have a closer look at it. So, a small, like I said, front flipper and liner lock knife. But let me get that close. They describe this front flipper as a razor opening system. And I suppose you can sort of see what they mean. One of those old cutthroat style razors, it looks very similar to that. But I suppose if we stick to normal knife, what do we call it? Names, I suppose. It is basically a oversized front flipper. Right, let's get that open. We have a drop point blade, full flat grind on that. You can see that grind goes all the way to the spine of the blade. Got a slightly curved, just a gently curved plunge line, and therefore obviously a gently curved ricasso, and then the edge on this knife, so tidy enough but not exactly sharp out of the box, so you can feel that just by pulling your finger across it. But also cutting paper, it does a little bit of a tear, slightly cut type jobs. Does need a little bit of touching up, but it certainly is neat and tidy, the edge. And then, not unusual for an Extrema ratio knife, no sharpening choil on that. So it gives you a little bit of a challenge, make life interesting for you if you do want to touch up that blade. Right, what else on the blade? Well, I'll get it closed and have a look at that interesting shaped front flipper again. So, as I said, that is their razor opening system. There it is. The finish on that blade, by the way, stone wash, and a very good looking stone wash finish. And then there also what looks like, and the camera's probably not going to pick this up. I'll try to get it at an angle, but I doubt. They're so fine and subtle, and you sort of only pick it up at certain angles, but they're little lines that looks kind of like grind lines, but they perfectly parallel to each other and equidistant, and they call them, well, I saw in one description they call it masking scratches, and that's to sort of make the blade non-reflective, but quite interesting looking. How effective that is, I don't know, but there it is. That's the finish on the blade. Right, so what else? The handle. So the handle, that sort of shape on the handle and that little cutout, not atypical of Extrema ratio knives. They tend to do this sort of thing on all of their knives, and I brought a couple of other Extrema ratio knives in just to kind of show you what I mean. So here we have the Desert Warrior. Which one was this? The BF2 CD. But you can see what I mean. They've also got that little bit of shape in the handle on that one. And then I've brought another one in here. And what is that? Slightly different, the shape, but it's got a similar kind of look about it. What is this? The MF1 BC. But there again, you can kind of see what I mean on those. And then the other one I brought in, I think it was the first review that I ever published. But that, very similar. You can see the shape cut into the handle there. And this is the Frame Rock, big chunky knife there, but you can kind of see what I mean. It has that Extrema ratio design language going on the knife. That handle has a texture to it that provides a little bit of grip to it, and then the edges on that all rounded, and then you can see a little bit of a drop to the handle as well. So in hand, I did say tiny little knife. That's what it kind of looks like not kind of looks like, that is what it looks like in my hands. And I've mentioned in other reviews that I have medium hands and I wear a large glove. So you can see that this really is a small, let me lift the pinky there so I kind of look la-di-da, but that's just to show you that I basically get 3 fingers on there, and that finger is not really doing much when you get hold of the knife. So bigger hands, it's going to be even more so. You can kind of choke up on the knife, on the blade, and that's what that looks like. I then get my 4 fingers on. There's no choil there, but there is a little bit of a landing spot for your finger if you do want to choke up on the blade, and that is pretty comfortable. So the ergos are actually, for such a small knife, are actually pretty good. Holding it like that, even though you don't get that, in my case, I don't get my little finger onto the handle, that does actually feel very comfortable, and it does feel like you get a good grip onto that knife. It does feel quite secure in your hand. Right, I mentioned that I'm going to speak about the interesting construction. So besides that interesting washer that I spoke about earlier on that I cannot figure out what it is, we've got liners. So those, the plastic, this, what do they call it? The technopolymer is a scale. And then we've got a liner that on one side is embedded, and it's kind of hidden inside there. Try and get an angle, and you can probably just see inside there that you've got the scale, the liner on that side. And then on the other side, the liner is clearly visible. So it's not embedded on that side, and that's the side that the lock is on. So standard liner lock, the standard fare, get your hold of that with your finger to unlock the knife, a little bit of jimping on there. But then on the show side, like I say, on the, in inverted commas, show side, the liner is embedded then inside that plastic scale. So quite interesting. I'm not really sure why they constructed it like that, but interesting nevertheless. A little bit of an asymmetric look to the handle. Nice looking little pocket clip, interesting looking pocket clip. Not too much space behind there if you do want to get that over cloth, but it is tip up carry, and it is reversible. So you can see that that handle has been molded to allow you to get that pocket clip onto the other side as well. And then we've got the little lanyard hole. You can see the lanyard hole positioned just at the drop of the handle towards the spine of that handle. We've got a sort of oblong, round-edged or round-ended, there we go, round-ended lanyard hole on the knife. And then some of the markings, we've got Extrema ratio made in Italy. See if you can get that. Very incredibly tidily done on the handle of the knife. And then that convoluted name that I spoke about. Yeah, and then we've got a little code there. I'm assuming that that's just a product code on the handle on that side as well. Action on the knife, it is very smooth. So whatever those washers are, it does make the action smooth, but it's not a knife that you can flick out. With all intentions, you cannot get it to flick out. So it is the kind that you have to get hold of and roll out. And I'm doing it awkwardly there, but again, when I'm not in under the camera, you can roll that out quite nicely, and it is solid. It does feel solid. Detent, by the way, also really good. It's got a nice solid little detent, sucks it in there, and you can hear it click as it gets into place. So all good there. The fit and finish on the knife, the fit is very good. Finish, there are some rough edges to it. So if we look at the liner where it's showing over there and try and get that in the light, hopefully this is going to come up and actually show, but you can see the little grind lines or cut lines, whatever the manufacturing process was on that liner, and that's sort of all the way around. You can pick it up on the lock as well. And again, I hope I'm actually showing this, trying to get the light to catch it in a way where you can see it. A little difficult for me to see what it's finally going to come out like here, but yeah, it's a little bit rough on there. And then that blade, from certain angles, when you're running the light down it, it seems to have a little bit of a wave to the blade as well. So it almost appears that this is really being designed as a tool, less than a sort of nicely highly finished off sort of gentleman's carry. Now, it certainly is a gentleman's carry from a size perspective, but it does seem to be put together as a bit of a utility knife, maybe a small knife, but designed for hard use. And it certainly does feel solid enough to fit the bill for that. And that pretty much, I think, covers off everything I really wanted to speak about on the knife. But an interesting little knife. Would it be my first choice for a little gentleman's carry? Maybe not. But is it something a little bit different? Extrema ratio, maybe a little rare, depending on where you are. And it does feel good. And the other Extrema ratio knives that I have are nicely put together. And I do kind of like their design. So, if you're looking for something a little bit different for a gentleman's carry. I certainly do think they make a good product. It is just, as I say, it is not something that has been made to the absolute perfect kind of finish. It's not one of those knives. I don't think they intended it to be one of those knives. It sort of fits in with the rest of their military look type of knives. So it's sort of a military gentleman's, there we go, an officer and a gentleman's little EDC knife. So here we go. Right, guys, let me pause there. And quickly give my thanks once again. Again, a knife that has been supplied to me by Blades and Triggers, and I really do appreciate their ongoing support of the channel. So check this knife out and other Extrema ratio knives out and other brands of knives and other tactical goodies on their website, BNT Online. And then I guess all that really leaves for me to do is, well, there's a few things to do, really. I've got to speak about the other versions of the knife. So there is a slightly different version of this knife. Identical the handle, identical size, but it has the hole in the blade. And that seems to be the older, it's still available, but the older version. This seems to be a newer version of the knife, but identical size, but just with the little thumb hole in the blade. And this, when they speak about that, they speak about this being the updated version with this razor opening system. And according to them, that is to help you to get the blade open, to deploy the blade a little bit faster than the other version of the knife. But the other version of the knife is still available on their website. Then in this specific version, you get a number of color options on the scales, on the handles. So you get a black techno polymer. Then you get HCS, they describe as HCS, and it just seems to be a darker version of this. This version is the desert version. The other one seems sort of a more flat dark earth, but they call it an HCS. And then you get a Ranger green, and guess what? It's green. A deeper kind of green, and a wolf gray version, sort of a charcoal gray version of the knife. So there are a couple of versions if you're looking for a different color to this desert version of it. And I guess all that now leaves me to do is some size comparisons. And since this is kind of a gentleman's carry, I've brought a few others in. And here's one that I haven't brought onto the channel for quite a while. In fact, I think maybe the last time I brought it on was when I did the review. And this is the Benchmade Saibu. So give you a sense of that, and you can see this really is a very, very small knife. Right, there's that, and then I brought the Medford knife and tool Der Hund on again, because that's a very small knife, and you can see in terms of length, those are very, very similar. The Medford knife and tool, clearly a taller knife. Right, there's that, and then this one that hasn't been on the channel for a while either, and it is incredibly dirty and dusty, but never mind that. And that's the Fox, what is this, the Fox Suru. Give you a sense of that, not too dissimilar in sizes, the two Italians. Right, and what else can I bring on here that's still on my desk? This, and this is the Kaiser Sheepdog. Give you a sense of those two together. Right, get that out the way, and then I've got, let's get back into the normal knives that I use for size comparison. Let's try that again, shall we? There we go. Before I completely embarrass myself. And that is the Spyderco PM3, a knife that I think is well enough known that people will get a sense of scale here. Right, that, and what else? Let's use this, the Spyderco Manix 2, a much bigger knife, but again, just to give you a little bit of scale. And then I think the last one that I will bring on is this one. And can I say it? Yes, I'm going to, because it has been out for so long, and because I think so many people will be familiar with that knife, and that is the Benchmade Mini Barrage. So give you a little bit of a sense of that too. Right, guys, and that's it. So overall impressions of the knife. Yeah, cute little knife, and I think it feels good in hand. It feels solidly enough made. I'd love to know what those washers really are so that I know how long they will last. But again, would it be my first choice? Probably not. You know, if I'm looking for something tiny like this, I'd probably get that other little knife that I screwed up the name of. What was it? It was a Civivi, Kiwi, I think, was it? I got the name completely wrong, but I think they call it the Kiwi. Yes, it is. It's called that. But I'd probably go for something like that before this. But again, you know, if you've got a lot of knives and you've got them all, a nice knife to have. You know, I'm not going to bash it. There is something appealing about it. There is something appealing about this little gentleman's type folder, but with more of a military tactical type feel about it. So yeah, there it is. The Extrema ratio BF0 RCD Desert. Guys, that's it for the review. All that's left for me to do is to once again thank you for joining me. As I always do say, I really do appreciate you swinging by, and would equally appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be notified every time I release a new video, because as I always do say, I really would love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.